Lightning Talks offer a platform to new speakers. They share their ideas in short and pointed talks of 10 minutes or less. Please welcome Juneza Niyazi, Service Design Manager, Jiva.
Hello guys, I'm Juneza. I am an architect by degree, a service designer by choice, and I'm an installation artist by passion. I have been working in the space of design for almost 6 years, in fact more than 6 years. But even today, when someone asks me, what do you do as a designer? I panic, I fumble, I look for definitions with a lot of jargons or services or products around me so I can point towards it. But later I realized that it was my responsibility to help people understand the value that the designer brings to the table. So today, I want to share with you guys how I learned to articulate what I do as a designer from my grandmother, Nargis Velliavide. So my granny, she comes from a very small village in Palakkad, very stubborn, but very rooted in her traditional ways of doing things. But she's open to having a conversation around our modern ways of living. Like a typical South Indian family, we start our day with idli and coconut chutney. The coconut chutney ground by my grandma with her favorite gadget. The gadget's not coming. The amikal is to die for because the coconut and the spices are ground slowly and the time it takes to make that chutney is equivalent to watching an entire episode of Friends. So one day I sat with my grandma while she was doing this and I asked her, this looks like a lot of effort. Doesn't your hands hurt? She looked at me and she said, of course, it takes a lot of effort, technique and time. And my shoulders ache due to this continuous grinding. I said, Granny, do you know what I do as a designer? I try to make people's life more easier. And I showed her a picture of an electric grinder. I said, now the human effort has been completely replaced by an electric motor. Now you can make the same chutney while you're doing your pranayama. And guess what? Your daughter is highly impatient. She makes the same chutney in minutes using a mixie. My granny looked at me curiously and she was like, so what do you do? Well, I don't have time for any of these processes. I buy chutney in a packet. I was extremely happy with my decision-making skills because I was optimizing for effort and time. Convenience is what matters to me. And somewhere in the corner of the world, a designer has worked for my need. And my granny was very confused. She went back to her grinding, she didn't say anything. And after a long pause, she said, your need is not everyone's need. She said the experience of eating this chutney made using this amikal cannot be replicated. And the texture that is added due to this continuous grinding is something that your grinder or your mixie cannot do. But the real reason why I do what I do is because your grandfather will not eat chutney made through any other process. Yeah. And that's when I realized, did my grandma just explain designing an experience to me? Experience is such an abstract concept to comprehend. As a service designer, when I'm talking to stakeholders, I usually rely on two things, framework and metrics. Framework could be a canvas, roadmap, service blueprint, metrics, KPI, KRA, ROI, so that we could easily help the stakeholders understand the impact that design is bringing for business. But I wasn't very happy with this. I was very uncomfortable because I just could not explain what design is. Because as designers, we get caught up in this rabbit hole of tailoring for business needs, and we're constantly changing our ideas based on frameworks or references that they are familiar with. And that's also because there is no medium for a stakeholder to visualize like we do. So let me elaborate this better. So let's take the example of designing the experience of buying vegetables in India. We Indians take buying vegetables very seriously. We have a specific vendor we go to, we pick a vegetable, we smell it, we examine it, we put it in a weighing basket, we give it to the vendor, and mind you, if we're buying fruits, we even ask questions such that, do you think this is ripe enough? Can I consume this today? And the vendor would help us pick that right fruit based on our consumption data. So this kind of an experience where the customer feels that the vegetable is picked by them and not for them is something that's highly personalized, and it's very difficult to recreate. So as a designer, I want to recreate this. I want to recreate that experience where the customer is able to choose that vendor, build that trust, pick that vegetable based on when do they want to cook it and how they want to cook it. But when we're sitting in a boardroom with software engineers, market heads, business analysts waiting to hear that solution, the entire experience of buying that vegetable, which is so abstract and emotional, gets discussed in the form of a feature. I would say, remember that XYZ app? There's that feature where the customer can pick that vendor and choose the vegetables. This is something like that. And the consequence of this is that the stakeholder would come up to me the next day and say, Juneza, that was a brilliant plan. Let's replicate that same feature. So who triggered this thought process? Me. We are to be blamed if everything in the world looks and feels alike. And this is also because of our bias that stakeholders do not understand design, which I think Neeta was talking about in the morning as well. So the reference-driven approach that we take acts as a guide. It acts as a north star for stakeholders to hold on to. It prevents them from being okay in the gray space, the space of origination. Yes, where ideas are built, where ideas are created. And this is a space that's often uncomfortable for a lot of people. And as designers, how do we help our stakeholders be comfortable in this space? By asking questions. Just like my granny, she kept asking me questions until I let go of all the solutions that I was offering her and understood who she was actually catering for, my granddad. But as a service designer, what I have been doing is that I have been recrafting and reframing my ideas and my abstract concepts in a framework that the stakeholder is familiar with and also based on their environment and their worldview. And we keep boxing our ideas in a recognizable schema. That's also because we feel heard, we feel understood, and we feel safe when we're having this conversation around something that they are familiar with. I want to highlight a specific topic that I talk in depth in my book. Businesses often tend to take decisions objectively. They rely on data to prove a point, to make decisions and strategies. But as designers, if we do not pause at every stop in our journey and reevaluate why and who are we building for, we might just get lost in that entire definition defined for us by data, stakeholders, and the other references and products around us. And mind you, a lot of the times raw data can be twisted to validate our hypothesis. I want to share with you guys a quote that I recently read. It was shared by Ashish Goel to the Ken. He said, to design a bookshelf, you need to understand how people buy books in India. People always design for the Western market, where people predominantly buy hardbacks over paperbacks. In India, it is the other way around. Experiences are extremely difficult to measure, but that should not stop us from grinding those ingredients until our end customer can have that experience that cannot be replicated through any other process. Staying rooted in our process of working in that gray space where ideas are built from a problem statement and not reacting to the products and solutions around us is what my granny, Nargis Villabhedi, helped me understand. Today, my definition of design has changed from what design is to what design does. Thank you.